This week on the Deep Leadership Podcast.
It's easier to lead somebody that knows why they're there,
Yeah.
who they know who they are, they know what they want, and they know where the intersection is between what they want and what the team wants, what they want and what the institution wants.
This episode is brought to you by the Salty Sailor Coffee Company, the official coffee of the Deep Leadership Podcast. Salty Sailor is a veteran-owned coffee brand on a mission to deliver premium, fresh roasted coffee while making a positive impact in the world. Their motto is drink coffee and do good, which reflects their commitment to making amazing coffee and actively supporting the military community. 10% of every order goes to the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, an organization dedicated to helping sailors, Marines, and their families in times of need. All our listeners get 10% off every order of their amazing coffee by using the discount code DEEP at checkout. So check them out at saltysailorcoffee.com. Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Jeffrey Klubeck. Jeffrey is an unretired professor of communication and author of The Integrity Game, which is evolving into a comprehensive soft skills development company. As a world-class coach, Jeffrey has worked with entrepreneurs and high-performance teams in 14 countries on 4 continents. He is also the founder of Get A Klu, Inc., which provides productivity and accountability frameworks for small and micro businesses and solopreneurs. Jeffrey is also the author of Get A Klu in 52 Soft Skills book series, and I'm excited to have him on the show to learn from his unique experiences. So, Jeffrey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, John. It's great to be here.
It is great to meet you, and it's great to meet someone like you with so much experience. And so, I'm really excited about talking about integrity. We're going to get to that in a bit, but first of all, tell us about Get A Klu and your background in the leadership space.
Yeah, well, Get A Klu, my last name's Klubeck, right? And so I decided I wanted to become like it's interesting actually. I used to be a headhunter and a recruiter, and Get A Klu, it actually was the name of an editorial that I wrote on the sports page back in high school. I wanted to get different people to read the sports page and go sell advertising on the sports page, so I created an editorial called Get A Klu, and I would try to upset some people and create some controversy and get people writing in so I could sell advertisements on the newspaper. That's all like way back when in high school. But as a professional, when I was transitioning from being a recruiter to a parent and then negotiating with my wife, like, how are we going to do this? Who's going to be with the kid or career and what's going on? I decided that I was going to form a C Corp, right? And market myself as a consultant and get a real estate license, and whichever one took off first, consulting or real estate. And then I met a guy named Brian Trachel who said, "Oh, you're a coach?" And I said, "What do you mean, coach?" And he started talking to me about coaching as a profession, as a way to earn income and help people with motivation and mindset and goal setting and time management. I'm like, wait, tell me more. So Get A Klu is my boutique C Corp that I've built my coaching practice through. And now it owns the Integrity Game, which is what we're going to talk about. So now everything that I do for a living, coaching, consulting, training, keynote, speaker for hire, info products, it's all going to be packaged in Integrity Game. It's a better brand to grow up and evolve into better spaces. So Get A Klu is, it's cheeky and it's jovial and it's boutique. I don't take myself too seriously, so I have a lot of fun with my last name.
Oh, that's great. I love it. And so many people do. I've got a friend, John Brubaker, and so everything is Brew and his, it's Coach Brew and is his podcast and everything. So everything is around Brew, and I love it. And I don't have a cool name like that, so I can't do it. So
it's not for everybody. So people are like, "Oh, Jeff, it's so cheesy," and I'm like, "Oh, happy Clue year, and let me put you on my clues letter." And
that's perfect. I love it.
Yeah, let's like, I don't clear things up for people. I establish clucidity, and if I'm having a beer with the fellas, then get a little lubrication. So it's just all about, like, my behavioral style is jovial. When I started teaching public speaking as a graduate student at San Diego State, I realized I was fine with it, but I realized people were really terrified of public speaking, and then communication wasn't their major. It was general ed, and they had to take it, and so they didn't want to be there, and they were terrified. So I ended up, and I would take it personally before I realized, how challenging it was. If somebody dropped out or if somebody wasn't doing well, I took it personally. So I really kind of developed this stand-up comedy, very vulnerable, jovial, dad jokish, presentation or teaching style in the classroom to disarm people. And
Yeah.
it's stuck with me, and it's I just humor is a coping mechanism for the tough stuff in life, and humor is a great Trojan horse to get people to think about things that they might not will themselves into thinking about.
I love it. We've talked about humor on this podcast too before. It's important. I mean, in military, humor was like how we got through the day. It
That's
was
right.
just, it's like, oh, look, we're not getting back to port, for another 3 weeks. That's great. It just sarcasm and humor was like how we lived our days. So yeah. So I'm
Absolutely.
I'm used to it. It helps to diffuse it, especially when you're in a group of people all going through a miserable time together. Humor kind of get you through the day and what have you. So very important part. I think it's an important part of leadership as well.
Mhm.
Having a, being serious about your job and not as serious about yourself. I think that's something that good
Absolutely.
leaders know how to do that. So, well, this podcast is about leadership, and you
Hmm.
do deal with a lot of leaders who are running. They're entrepreneurs, they're small business owners, they may be solopreneurs. How do you look at leadership? How do you define leadership?
Well, yeah, it's a moving target, right? So what I want to say about leadership is like, are you ready? The totality,
Mm,
the totality of forces that move things from A to B.
mm.
All right.
Yeah,
So like let's really cast a wide net, right? So a lot of times when this leadership conversation, qualities of a leader, traits of a leader, principles of leadership, and you start to focus on the leader, one person that's
yeah,
leading others. But I believe in leading from whatever seat you're in, leading by example and leading by contribution, or leading by asking questions, knowing when to follow as a function of all the stuff, the totality. So even somebody that doesn't have the title or the authority of leader, sometimes those are the best leaders
yeah,
because they inspire us from whatever seat they have on the team. They show up early, they're engaged, they do their jobs right, they cover the backs of their teammates. They're not maybe not the leader, but they're leading.
yeah, yeah.
And so I like to focus on the totality, and I invite everybody to the leadership party.
I absolutely love that. And and being, having run businesses for so long, I find the leaders. Like you find those natural leaders in every
Yeah.
organization. It's who is that, informal leader, and who is everyone listening to, and who is, and it's about influence, right? It's more about, what you're doing to influence others versus what your title is. And so for so many years, I've seen these informal leaders, like those are the people that get things done, right? They're the
Sometimes
ones
it's
that
the
everyone's listening
yeah.
to. Yeah,
Sometimes it's the unassuming introvert that nobody quote unquote notices, but they're a fantastic listener for all the other alphas on the team. They're the one that has all the information. They're the glue that's keeping the team together. They're not hogging any spotlight, but they are making sure that the group
yeah,
gets from A to B in their way. So we
yeah,
have to recognize all of the contributions, the totality of leadership. It's everybody's responsibility, even though it may only be one person's title. It's everybody's responsibility.
yeah, yeah. I like that a lot. I like that a lot, because I think those people that take leadership is a title. They look for positional authority. I think that's the easiest leadership role to have, which is I'm in charge because I have the title. Then I can tell everybody what to do. That's the easiest form of leader. The hardest form is I say when nobody reports to you, but yet you're trying to get something done through influence. Those are the hard jobs. Like when you're like, I was a quality manager for a division one time, and I had a very small team working for me, but I had a very large responsibility for influencing the organization towards quality objectives. And nobody
Yeah.
worked for me. All the people that ran production and nobody worked for me. So it was a very difficult job to influence all these people to move in a direction that was that I needed them to move into, and it was very, very difficult. So those kind of
Yeah, yeah.
jobs
Let's
require a
like
lot
let's
of influence. Yeah,
let's peel off the mask. Like, why do we call it leadership? Why don't we just go ahead and call it sales? You got to
yeah,
sell.
selling.
Right?
Yeah,
You gotta engage. You gotta influence. You gotta persuade. You gotta promote. You've got to
yeah.
get buy-in. You got to get engagement. Like, we're selling. Why do we call it leadership? Why don't we just call it sales? Oh, I know why. Because most people think sales is a four-letter word when it's actually a five-letter word. But
Yeah,
we're talking about what
yeah,
is leadership? Again, it's persuasion, it's influence, it's all the things that you're mentioning, right? And
yeah,
and
yeah,
and here when we're going to get into it, I think following your line of questioning, we're going to talk about the integrity game, but it's one thing to span boundaries and get buy-in from people that don't report to you, and you don't have that authoritative or transactional consequence to hold over them, if you will. You're not they're not direct report like performance reviews, a raise or salary or bonus or promotion. You're just a guy in the other department that needs something. Right?
Yeah.
But I think the hardest really, I think that's easier in a sense than what I think is the hardest type of leadership, which is self-leadership and self-responsibility.
Mm.
And so again, a lot of times the common focus on leadership is on, some person that's leading a group, but we can lead from the bottom up or inside out, or that when we talk about totality. So again, it's like, how do you lead yourself? Right? How are you an empowered yes or empowered no?
Yeah.
If somebody from the other department's coming over with some influence, how do you know whether or not to engage? If it's just whether or not you'll get in trouble from your direct supervisor, maybe that's not enough why. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we'll talk about, the structural integrity for individuals, for teams, for organizations. That we'll get into the integrity game. But in terms of like a definition for leadership, I want to get it as broad, as wide, as big. I want to use words like totality, and right, so that we begin to, like I said, look within for our level of responsibility for the collective things that lead us where we want to go.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, all that is important, and it's we've covered a lot of those areas in past guests, but I think
Mm-hmm.
lead yourself first is like something we talk about a lot. It's a big part of leadership is what are you doing to lead yourself, and that's a
Yeah.
big that's a big place to start. And if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others, right? So
Right. And then it's like herding cats. If you're trying to lead a bunch of people that aren't leading themselves, okay, that it gets slippier or more slippery.
yeah,
Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
But I'd rather, I don't think it's easier to lead somebody that knows why they're there,
yeah,
who they know who they are, they know what they want, and they know where the intersection is between what they want and what the team wants, what they want and what the institution wants. So when we can integrate and I understand and see the points of intersection between all of our desires, right? Why am I here? What does the team need? What does the organization need? Why am I here again? Okay, where's the points of? I'll run through a brick wall when I can again get that clear, right?
right,
On my
right.
my goals, how they intersect with the team's goals. My goals, how they intersect with the organization's goals.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's switch over to the let's talk a little bit about integrity. You've got this thing
Yeah.
called the integrity game. Tell us about it. What is it?
Yeah, well, the when it's done, I'll let you know. Like we're growing it up right now. It started off as just a three-step dialogue in my coach's training. So I learned how to coach, a couple decades ago, and because I have experience in the classroom, I kind of created my own curriculum for training other people how to coach. It's important to scale too, because as I get bigger, I'm going to need other coaches that I've trained that can, when we get bigger projects. But inside of accountability, the portion of the coaches training that deals with accountability, and that's really the integrity game is. It's the Trojan horse to open up the accountability conversation. I'll come back to that in a second, but it started as a three-step dialogue. So, John, what would happen if you're meeting with somebody that you're leading? And they commit to something in one meeting, and then they get to the next meeting and they have not done what they had committed to do.
Mm.
What do you do?
Yeah,
Right?
that's number two on my expectation list is to do what you say you're going to do, or at least
Okay,
let me know ahead of time before
update.
before the
Yeah,
due date. Yeah,
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 all of the principles, right? So
yeah,
we when we're training coaches, right?
yeah.
All right, here's the deal, right? First of all, we're training the clients or we're training the direct reports. Like as soon as you know that you're not going to do what you said you're going to do, update your word, right? So now the
Yes,
thing isn't done, but your word is current. That's a way to maintain your integrity is to keep your
yes,
word current. That's the responsibility of the person making the commitment to manage their commitments. Now, for us as leaders, we can't let people commit to stuff that we know there's a strong chance they're not going to get to. So we
yes.
have to guide and manage and support them in the care of commitment in the first place. But should they commit and then show up having not done what they said they were going to do, having not updated their word, what do we do? So basically, inside the coaches training, there's a three-step dialogue. I got to get you to own it. I got to get you to understand the consequences, and I got to get you to decommit or recommit. That's what the integrity game was. I just called it all right, now we got to play the integrity game. Instead of
Yeah,
saying, now I got to hold you accountable. Now I have to confront you. Now I have to make you feel like crap. No, I don't have to do that, but I do have to play the integrity game. So why didn't it get done? What are the
yeah.
consequences of it not being done? And then are you going to decommit or recommit? Or is this thing just going to stay an open loop in your mind? It's my job as the leader to help get clear on that and to clean that up.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's what the integrity game was. And there's like origins in like landmark education and all these leadership principles and Tony Robbins, mastery coaching, and it comes from places, right? And but it's all about accountability. So fast forward after many many years in coaching and teaching accountability, and I get paid to hold other people accountable and really getting into it. People think they understand accountability because they could pronounce it, but it's really more detailed than that. And all the ego defense and all the smoke and the mirrors and all the storytelling and all of the letting ourselves off the hook. We judge ourselves by intent, but everybody else is judging our actions. So the
Yes.
disconnect. Well, I didn't mean to. I was just trying to. I thought you wanted me to. Or look, oh, you follow smoke and mirrors, right? So it's tough to hold people accountable, right? Back to leadership. One of the things that we want is permission to lead. It's easier to lead people if we get their permission. So how do we earn permission? How do we get engagement? How do we get enrollment? But back to the integrity game, it's a 10-point model. That's how it's evolved. It started off as a little 3-step dialogue. And I got an opportunity to do a keynote for the Specialty Advertising Association of California it was pre-vax COVID in 2020. And it's like the first keynote I ever did from a hotel room where I recorded it and sent it to them, and they played it for their audience on the 5th day of the conference. But the idea is I put all these usual suspect topics when I was, working with them on what I was going to talk about. And to me, the topics look boring. We can get bored of our own stuff, right? Time management and goal setting. And I just threw the integrity game in there to like kind of color up the list a little bit. And they're
Yeah.
like, well, this integrity game thing sounds interesting. So necessity breeds invention. And it just kind of came to me like I developed the keynote, and it came out being a 10-point model. Now, because I'm a communication guy and wordsmithy, and I like to pay attention to the meanings of words and denotative and connotative usage and the vibration of language and words and the connection between words and emotions and so forth. What I noticed is that most people have a judgment-based understanding of integrity. So when they use the word integrity, they're judging others, right? And when I would do keynotes or when I would do talks or in seminars and retreats and so forth, what happened was I'd say, how many of you believe you have integrity? And everybody raises their hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a couple minutes later, first of all, I say, well, now keep your hand up and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear not to shoot the messenger. And so that's my kind of fast-paced, humor-laced, in-your-face speaking style. Like my job is to hold up a mirror with as much love as I can and help people look within. So, but what's interesting to say, all right, everybody raises their hand when they say, how many of you have integrity? But then I say, well, hang on, let's make sure we're talking about the same thing. I don't want to offend you. What is it? And
Yeah.
now it goes back to what we've talked about. I always get 2 answers, John. One person's going to say, somebody in the audience is going to say, do what you say you're going to do. Be your word. Okay, good. We'll put that on the board. And somebody else is going to say, do the same thing when nobody's watching as you would when somebody's watching. And when they say this, they go, be your word. And they go, do the right thing. And they have this vibration in their voices like they're mad at some person that's not in the room for not being their word or not doing the right thing. So
Yeah.
it's like, wait a second. You all agree that there's a vibration of judgment for others. And so the funny part is that integrity becomes like parenting or driving that we all think ourselves to be really good at. It's just everybody else sucks. Do you remember
Interesting. Yeah.
the old George Carlin bit? Like everybody driving faster than you on the freeway is a maniac, and everybody
Yeah.
driving slower than you on the freeway is a moron.
Right.
So it's basically, I want to cut through autobiographical thinking. Does this make sense? And so when people associate with integrity, but if I started my keynote and say, how many of you want an external accountability source? Nobody would raise their hand.
Yeah.
But if I say, how many of you believe you have integrity? All the hands go up. So that's partly Trojan horse to get into the accountability conversation.
But
But go ahead.
isn't there though? I mean, it sounds like in a way what you're saying is that integrity is relative, but isn't, I mean, you can say, I can look at people and say that person has a high level of integrity. Like I've observed that person over time and they have a
Yes.
high level of integrity. So it
Yes.
it sounds like it is, so we have some preconceived notions about it, right? And we have some
Yes.
personal opinions about it, but it is truly a measure of performance, like that we can actually look at someone and say they have integrity.
Okay. Yeah. Yes and no.
Okay.
Okay. Yes and no. Okay. In other words, yes, because of our understanding, what do we think counts as integrity? And the people that
Okay.
we observe, right. So the people that we observe, And you've been in great positions, right? You've been serving our country and the manufacturing companies, and you're entrepreneurial, and now you're in academia, right? So you get to, you're not hanging out on the streets, right? So a larger percentage of the people that you hang out with are going to have a higher degree of integrity. Okay.
Okay.
But it's not what I'm trying to argue here is it's not just from being your word or doing the right thing, because those two answers are good. We can observe people who do what they say they're going to do. We can observe people who do what we think is the
Yeah.
right thing.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to invite everybody to consider is that how often do we ask somebody else, hang on a second, what do you think the right thing is? And are you doing what you think
Okay.
is
Okay.
right? So a lot of times we think we know what the right thing is, and then we project that onto others. I mean, as well as I do, our country is divided as ever, right? We can't agree on
Mm.
what's true. Or who's the president. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's like serious
Yeah.
misinformation or disinformation or different media streams. So what's the right thing? It's a moving target, right? To be more simple about it, let me get like we would all agree, oh, you should never lie. These people with high
Mm.
integrity, right? High integrity, but maybe they do elf on a shelf and lie to their kids for 26 days at Christmas to get them into
Mm.
good behavior. Do you know what I'm getting at, right? It's like my point is, be your word. Well, what if I said I was going to get? What if I said I was going to sleep on the couch 20 out of every 24 hours, and then I did? I will have done what I said I was going to do, but I can't claim integrity, could I? What if I said I was going to get into my car and drive and hit the first pedestrian I saw, and then I got in my car and drove and hit the first pedestrian? Could I claim integrity just by doing what I said I was going to do?
Mm.
No, because we can play it safe, or we can say we're going to do unproductive or destructive things, right? So, in other words, be your word is good, but to me, it's not enough, to really
Mm.
claim more integrity. And so, there are people that walk around with great integrity. They know who they are. They have questions answered about their own life, and now their behavior is integrated with the answers that they have for themselves when we're talking about self-leadership, right? So what most common is people don't answer questions for their own life, right? And now they sit in judgment of others because that's easier. It's easier to point a finger at others than to work on ourselves, right? So the idea is, I think these two answers, be your word and do the right thing, they're good, but not good enough. Because like sometimes the right thing is fools rush in, or she who hesitates is lost. Those are contradictory. Time is money, patience is a virtue. Or
Yeah.
John, if you never quit, you never lose, right? If you never quit, you never lose.
Yeah.
But you also need to know when to cut your losses.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so the right thing, especially for leaders, aren't we conflicted with, like, in any given situation, there might be 7 leadership principles that we have to consider in order to arrive at the best decision. And we might be violating 2 or 3 leadership principles because the situation requires us to focus on the right leadership principle for the moment.
Hmm. So is it
So
that we're confusing integrity with ethics and morality? Is that the issue? Because I think
part of it,
when it comes
part
to
of it.
ethics and morality, I can see that there is absolutes, right? There are things that
Yes.
that as a society we should not do, right?
Yep.
And so
Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal.
right, exactly. And so we
Yes.
think of, at least I think of, someone with integrity has good moral virtues, right? That also, that they keep their word with respect to morality and ethics.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I like where you're going with this.
Yeah.
In my model, the integrity
Yeah.
game, the morals and the virtues and the ethics are like the adhesive.
Okay. Okay.
They're the adhesive. They're the things that hold together the 10 points on the model.
Yeah.
So for example, well, first of all, by the way, have you ever seen anybody with that you thought had questionable integrity, or that you actually said to yourself, "Ooh, they're out of integrity, or they don't have integrity, or they could use more integrity"?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So how would they go about getting it? Like, in
Well,
other words,
yeah.
how if what I'm my 10-point model, right? The integrity game is it's very simple. It's easy to understand. It's difficult to play.
Yeah.
It's 10 topics which become question sets. And the integrity game is, hey, understand these 10 questions, answer these 10 questions, see if your answers integrate or dilute each other, empower or disempower each other, share your answers with an external accountability source that loves you, and then see how much of your day-to-day actions are integrated with the answers that you have for yourself, rather than being blown around like a feather in the wind or a
Yeah.
pawn in somebody else's game. right? So it includes word and our relationship with our word, right? But it's, again, like, to me, just doing what you say you're going to do and just trying to do the right thing when nobody's watching, it's good, but not enough. And back to morals, ethics, and values, that's the adhesive that kind of holds. It's like, imagine shoelaces, right?
Yeah.
Shoelaces where, right? Imagine 5 loops on one side and 5 loops on the other, and they go through. So the laces are the values, the morals, the ethics, the love, right? The
Yeah.
intangibles, okay, that hold together the 10 points on the model. So the
Yeah.
laces don't tie the shoe. We tie the laces. What the laces are doing is integrating. And this is what I want to get together, get rid of the judgment from it, right? The integration, coming together of two or more things, right?
Yeah.
Nobody, when I ask what is integrity, people are going to have the ethics, the moral, the judge. You didn't do what you said you were going to do. You didn't do the right thing. But it's neutral. It's objective. Just together or not together, integrated or not integrated.
Yeah, but I would from a leadership perspective, right? One of
Mm-hmm.
the things that I always say that I want to be a person of my word, right? So I
Yes.
typically say I undercommit and overperform, right? I don't so my word is so important to me that I don't commit to a lot of things, right?
Right.
And so
Good.
I and
Good.
what I do commit to, I make sure that I get done because I've created expectations for my employees, right? So
Yeah.
that I
That.
and I
Mhm.
think that I am bothered if I can't perform to my word. So I'm very careful of what I promise. I'll even say to my employees, I don't want to make that promise right now because I don't know. There's an unknown out here, and I can't make that commitment to you right now.
Right. I only want to commit to what I'm 100% in control of. Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, you're a cut above. And word/commitment, that's one of the 10 points on the
Okay,
model.
okay.
Right. So that's one of the 10 points is word/commitment, not just like managing expectations and being our word, like we talked
Yeah.
about, but the power of words.
Mm,
The vibration of words saying, could versus should,
yeah,
and want to versus have to,
yeah,
and hate versus dislike. So being careful about word choices and understanding their vibration and their potential, the ambiguity, and how they may be decoded differently than
yeah,
how we're encoding. So the power and the care in word choice, but also managing expectations. So that's one point on the model. And in question form, you've got great answers to this, right? But not everybody does. The question would be, what's
yeah,
your relation? How careful are you with your words? What's your
yeah,
relationship to your word? How well do you manage expectations that you set for yourself and others?
yeah,
Right. So that we want people to answer those questions, and we want people to be self-reflective about that piece of the 10-point model. But there's 9 other pieces that we want answers to. So in other words, when some people, what is integrity? Somebody will say, well, be your word, right? All day long, I could hold somebody accountable to doing what they said they were going to do. But
yeah,
what I
yeah,
want to know, that's transactional.
right.
Transformational is, why did you say you're going to do that?
Yeah, yeah.
Not just do what you said, but why did you say that? What is that
Yeah.
tethered to?
So one interesting thing is I had a friend I used to work with in my corporate days, and he used to always say, "Never be a hero on planning day." And so what he's saying is that don't
I
be
like it.
because you can be a hero on planning day, where the bosses say we need to double your sales, and the guy goes, "I'll do it."
Helium
Yeah,
hand. Yeah.
yeah. So I'll do it, right? And so everyone knows that he's lying, that can't be done, right? But he's just doing it to look good in that one meeting, right? And we all know that he's likely not gonna make that. So the motivation behind making a promise that you're
You got it.
likely not gonna take is
It's
that,
not, it's out of
yeah,
integrity. It's building that's a mansion that person's trying to build on quicksand,
yeah,
right?
but
And
it's the
so
why. So there's a why behind,
you
like, I
got
made
it.
a promise that I knew I couldn't fulfill, but there was a why behind it because I looked good on that day, you know.
Yeah, but that may not be the best why. So the
No, it's
first
not a
point
good
on,
why.
yeah, yeah,
So,
the first point on the integrity game model, the very first point is, it's been around forever. It's called purpose, right? And so what's your purpose? So the
ah,
integrity game invites people to answer questions like, in your opinion, what's the meaning of life? Why does life exist? What's the
mm,
purpose of life? Because if you have some sort of meaning around purpose of life, you might be one step closer to protecting, investing, optimizing life. If you have no concept of what life means, now you may not value it and optimize it, etc. But then let's go one step closer to your life. What's the meaning of your life? So there's, like, if I'm standing in front of 100 entrepreneurs and I say, how many of you believe you have integrity? They all raise their hand. And I say, good. Okay, everybody write down your purpose statement and send it forward, please. It would be crickets.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people wondering, they don't know what their purpose is. And here's the thing, the integrity game, we don't care if your purpose tomorrow is different than your purpose today. What we care about is every day without one, because you
Yeah.
might raise your hand purposeless, aimless, or with a defunct or an unsustainable purpose, right? You just might be trying to band-aid approach your way into feeling good about yourself when you haven't done the work of like, why am I here? What's my purpose in this company? Why am I in this career or this
Okay.
job?
Yeah.
Why am I on this team? Why am I raising my hand right now? It's just you follow. We want something, right? So building a bridge or a tunnel will collapse under pressure tests without structural integrity. Well, so do individuals, teams, and organizations. So how do we retrofit an individual? How do we retrofit a team? And what I'm betting on is that my 10-point model makes it easier from a soft skill perspective, right? I believe soft skills make strong leaders. Soft skills make strong teams.
Yeah.
Soft
Yeah.
skills make strong organizations. So I want to make it actionable. I don't want to just say, hey, you're out of integrity. I want to say, hey, let's check out these 10 questions. Do you have answers to these 10
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah.
And
So let's
so, yeah, go ahead.
let's use an example. So, I mentioned before we press record that the purpose of the podcast is to build a world with better bosses. That's actually my purpose, and that's what I'm doing in my
Perfect.
life right now is to build
Yeah,
build a world with better bosses. Try to influence many people towards good leadership. So that influences my integrity, is what you're saying.
absolutely. Here's the thing. If your purpose in life is to build better bosses, now what's cool about that is that any bright and shiny thing that comes along that does not integrate with
Yeah.
that purpose, it's easy to not even notice it now because you're focused on what you're doing. It's
Yeah.
easy to have an empowered no to that,
Yeah. Like
right?
politics.
Because
I don't follow politics at all. Right. I don't follow
Mhm.
sports at all. Not
Yeah,
interesting to me
because
at
it
all.
doesn't integrate. It
It
doesn't
doesn't
serve
fit.
your
Yeah.
purpose. Yeah, right. You would have to be like, hey, if I can learn about how to make a better boss by watching this head coach or watching this politician, then you would. But if
Yeah.
it doesn't integrate with your purpose, then it's an empowered no. Okay.
Yeah.
But you've seen like people volunteer for stuff. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. And they're not doing it. They're not volunteering for things because that volunteerism is integrated with their purpose. They're actually covering up for the fact that they don't have purpose.
Ah, yeah. Okay, I get it.
Does
So
that,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that you're helping me understand that. So yeah, so that's why people will commit to things that they don't necessarily or and then they'll say later on like, oh, sorry I couldn't make it. I know I said I was going to be there, but I didn't make it because they never really wanted to be there in the first place because it didn't fit with their purpose because they didn't have a purpose.
Yeah, there was no foundation in that commitment. There was
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
integrating that commitment to something larger that would motivate somebody to keep it, right? There's other points on the model. Like the second point on the model is gifts, right? What is our mindset around giving and receiving? What counts as a gift? Anything other than the average? God-given, man-made, self-generated, and then of course, what does that translate into? Competitive advantages. So how many
mm,
people out there, they're gifted, but they're not investing in their gifts, optimizing their gifts, and sharing their gifts? How many people are running from, suffocating, or hiding from their gifts? How many
yeah,
people
yeah.
do you know that would rather be told all day long what to do in something that they're miserable at than take on the responsibility of optimizing their gifts?
Right.
The vulnerability, the responsibility, with great power comes great responsibility. So if I, so purpose, gifts, now we can get into potential, vision, mission, objectives when we're
Yeah,
determining
yeah.
potential. Then we could break it down into quarterly goal setting. So the 4 points, top 4 points on the model: purpose, gifts, potential, goals. So what's your purpose? What makes you better than anybody else or different than anybody else? What are your competitive advantages from a gifts perspective? Why do people want to recruit you, have you on the team, hire you, raise you, promote you, buy from you? Than your competition. What do you do better than everybody else that also does it? What do you do that nobody else does?
Mm,
And are you aware of that? Are you developing that if you don't have it? Are you right? Are you just going to be the average or, leadership, right? So if people don't know what their gifts are, or they're suffocating their gifts, or running from their gifts, or they know that they're brilliant, genius at something, and they're not doing anything about it. And so that's all subconscious. So they go and volunteer for these other things that seem easier. It makes
yeah,
sense. But if I know my purpose, I know my gifts, now I could imagine what my potential is. I could look out as far into my future as I could see, and I could describe what I see as my vision. Then I could be, I'm on a mission to
yeah,
what, which is still ways away, but far out. And then what are my annual objectives then, if that's my mission? And then quarterly, I can get into smart goal setting. So the specifics, the measurability, the time bound, all of that. And so those are the first 4 points on the model. But you know as well as I do, if you know anything about leadership, you know that like 3% of the population sets goals.
Yeah.
right? If I walked into a room with 1,000 people, I'd say, how many of you set goals? They'd all raise their hand. I'd say, all right, write your goals down and send them forward. It would be hopes, wishes, and dreams
Yeah.
instead of
I have goals in
goals.
every part of my life. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't imagine life without
you,
goals.
yeah, no, yeah, yeah, yeah. But curse of knowledge, John, right? Curse
Yeah.
of knowledge is when we've become so familiar with something that we've forgotten what it's like
Yeah.
not to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I it's exciting to be able to hang out with leaders all day long and
Yeah.
ambitions all day long and achievers all day long and type A's and entrepreneurial and people that are thirsty for learning, right? But that's rare.
Yeah.
We are in the minority.
Yeah.
Most of the world, right? They're playing average. They're trying to avoid accountability like the plague. They're trying to do the bare minimum and get back to their
Things they enjoy. Yeah. Yeah.
tension relieving rather than goal achieving activity. So
Yeah.
most leaders in the world aren't leading like I don't know what the number is, but imagine the number. How many marbles in the jar, right? But basically, how many leaders are there in the world, and how many people are being led by those leaders? So how many marbles in the people being led jar? There's a lot of people being led, a lot of marbles in that jar. How many of them are type A achievers, thirsty learners, professional growth seeking people versus how many of them are average or worse? So
Well, I think
most,
based on the
yeah,
engagement numbers, it's about is less than 30%.
less than 30% are alphas, achievers, right?
Are leading, consciously being, making an effort to be great leaders. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, making an effort to be great leaders, but let's say there's 5 leaders, then how many people are being led? 500,
Yeah.
right? So of those 500, how many of those are type A's? How many of those 500 are alphas?
Yeah.
How many of those are achievers? How many of those are go-getters? How many of those are lifelong learners and constantly working
Yeah.
to improve and go get it? To you, it's normal. It's like breathing or blinking to be that way. But what I'm
Yeah.
trying to get at is most people in this world that are being led
Yeah.
are not achievers. They don't
Yeah.
they haven't answered questions for themselves. They're not aware of their purpose, their gifts, their potential. So they're
Yeah.
they're wasting
Yeah.
time, wasting time, wasting time. So like one of the challenges of leadership is leading people who haven't done the self leadership part.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
People that are in the job just to get a paycheck or you know what I mean, just to get home as soon as they can or to clock out at 5 or they're there not because of some bigger purpose. There's
Yeah.
no integration between what they're being led towards for 8 hours and the life they're leading for themselves. And what the integrity game is trying to do is make sure that people are engaged and they're
Yeah. Yeah.
motivated and they're willingly accountable. I want to make accountability non-threatening is what the integrity game is trying to do. I want to hold you accountable to your answers, not mine, yours.
I love it. This is such a unique, Jeffrey, such a unique approach to looking at integrity, and I love what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. How can if our listeners are like listening and say, "Oh, wow, this is interesting. Really, I want to get in. I want to understand more about it."
Mhm.
How can they find out more about this integrity game? What's the best way to find out?
Well, there's a couple of ways. Yeah, I've done a lot of podcasts. So if you search for integrity game and podcasts, I'm interviewed a lot and I'm talking about it a lot because I'm getting the word out there. But any especially listeners for your show, if they want to send me an email to info
Yeah.
at getaklu.net, I will
Okay.
give them a PDF copy of the book. It's a parable. There's a
Okay.
mentor and a mentee, and anyway, there's a transformation in the 10 points on the model unveiled through the story. So it's a business parable to introduce the 10-point model.
Okay.
So and then you can go to the integrity game. It's right there, integritygame.com. There's a little video where I explain what it is, and we're still building out the website. All the links may not be totally functional. We're building it, but there's a lot to learn about, and I'm easy to find. And this is what I'm doing: is I'm promoting the integrity game. I want to make accountability non-threatening, so I'm inviting people to play, and I want more integrity in my life. So I'm just inviting the world to come with me on this journey. Like I want to retrofit myself. I want to be a better dad. I want to be a better parent. I want to be a better professor. I want to be a better entrepreneur. So I'm playing the integrity game myself, and I'm inviting the world to play with me.
I absolutely love this. It's so exciting. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put links in the show notes for the Jeffrey's resource. And again, go check this out. This is such a really interesting perspective on integrity because I think what Jeffrey's doing, he's challenging the two main notions of what integrity really is. And I think he's diving deeper into something that we as leaders need to be thinking about because again, we may be hard chargers and we may have a plan and we may like me, I have goals for everything I'm working on. I'm focused on a mission, but a lot of the people we have working for us may not have that and may not know that. And so this can help us, further that discussion with our teams and help them become more more have a higher level of integrity with themselves and with the people around them. So we're going to put links in the show notes for that. Jeffrey, this has been an exciting conversation. Right? You really brought an energy to it and a perspective that I never thought of before. So I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, I appreciate you having me, John. And yeah, I'm looking forward to keeping my eyes on your career. You're doing amazing things. I have a lot of respect for what you've done for our country and what you're going to continue to do for all the people that you serve. So thank you, John. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And thanks for what you're doing on integrity. So, so important. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.